Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. I am here today, of course, with the big AFC East showdown, that being the Bills Dolphins preview show. So, without further adu, let's get into it. For the specifics of the game and how you can tune into it or stream it, whatever platform you use, it is the Buffalo Bills are hosting the Miami Dolphins at 1 o'clock p.m. Sunday, November 3rd, on a broadcast on CBS in Orchard at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. So the Bills went to Miami to blow out the Dolphins. It ended up being in week 2 in Miami Gardens, technically it is, and now they're in Orchard Park, New York. So without further ado, let's get into the usual stuff here. As you know by now, my keys to the game and my player predictions. We're going to project the 5 or 6 inactives for the Bills, all that fun stuff. My 3 keys for the Bills offense to beat this Miami Dolphins team with now a seemingly healthy Tua Tagovailoa back in the fold, if you will. Get a lead early and maintain that lead. The Bills are known this season, obviously, they're 6-2. Obviously, other than those two, that blowout loss to the Baltimore Ravens on that one Sunday night game, which was miserable, and then when Sean McDermott seemingly didn't know what was going on, and that 3-point loss to the Texans where we should have won, but I won't get into that because it makes me upset and annoyed. But get a lead and maintain a lead, because if the Dolphins are playing with a lead, they're awesome. They're great. They're chucking the ball all over the yard. But if they're down by 10, 14 points, forget it. It's over. They are not a team that's built to come from behind. They are not a team that's built to will their way to a victory if they're trailing at any point. So you get up early in the first quarter by 10, or the second or third quarter by 14, or even more than that, they're done. Put a dagger in them, because the Bills are great at getting leads early and maintaining those leads. You don't see the Bills act squeamish, if you will, and once they get a lead, what am I trying to say? Once they get a lead, they don't give up that lead, and the Dolphins are not built for a team that wants to be a grinded out type offense and come from behind victory team. Speaking of grinded out, well, I'll get to that later on actually, but utilize play action with Josh Allen is my second key for the Bills offense. Joe Brady has been kind of hit or miss with the play action rate this season. I love, like I said, I always want the play action rate to be for Josh Allen 30, 35, maybe even pushing 40%, give or take, somewhere around there, because Josh Allen, that's the best part of his game, right? He's absolutely money. Whatever high-level edge, if you want to word, money, killer, whatever you want to say, and term it as, if you will. Josh Allen is absolute monster under play action. Now, he's a monster all around, right? In my opinion, he's the leading MVP candidate this season. I know that's going to get a lot of pushback, but I'm not being a homer, I promise. If you're a non-Bills fan, it's just a fact. But back to the point where utilize play action, I would love to see Joe Brady, like he has the last couple of games, kind of deflate this Dolphins defense, if you will, with play action. And don't wait till the second half, late third quarter, fourth quarter, mainly to utilize play action. Use it early and often. Get these edge defenders offset. Get these linebackers offset, because the only good part of their secondary is the only good part of their defense, I should say, in general, is their secondary, and the whole defense is pretty much beat up. Let me just go over it quick. Obviously, Bradley Chubb is not nearly ready from his torn ACL. Obviously, Jalen Phillips, unfortunately, torn his ACL again. Javon Holland's probably going to miss the next 3 or 4 weeks with the chest. I want to say it's a shoulder injury, pretty severe shoulder injury or something. He's an IR candidate. Zach Sealer has this orbital fracture, which, if you don't know, is around your eye up there. So yeah, he's probably going to miss at least the next 3 or 4 weeks. They don't think it will require surgery. And then slot corner Kader Kohu, who historically has been garbage versus the Bills anyway. They've got to eat him up for lunch, literally and figuratively, if you will. So he's out. The whole defense is beat up, and the reserves, if you will, haven't really been nearly like as effective as they should be. So utilize play action early and often for Joe Brady, translating to Josh Allen. And then this is just like a simple point I want to make. Attack all levels of the field. They have injuries at all levels of the field. They have a lot of severe injuries on their D-line. The linebacker room isn't injured, but they're kind of so-so anyway. The secondary has a whole bunch of injuries. So attack all levels of the field, whether it's the screen game with Khalil Shakir. And by the way, guys, I want to make this point. I said throw out screens for eternity. I still kind of believe that, but the only guy that has proven to be even consistent, even like show some life on screens this year is Khalil Shakir. So attack all levels of the field. Attack the short part of the field with give guys jet sweeps, give Khalil Shakir screens, and make him work after catch as he provides you elite run after catch ability. Work the middle of the field with Dalton Kincaid, because the last few weeks has really had an uptick in production. Work the deep levels of the field with Keon Coleman and hopefully Amari Cooper plays as well. So like I said, work all levels of the field. Just to recap, give Khalil Shakir screens at the short level of the field, make him work after the catch, which he's elite at. Work the middle of the field with Dalton Kincaid on those quick crossing routes. Work the deep level of the field with Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper, who Keon Coleman, he's outproducing basically every other rookie receiver who's not named Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas Jr. And then you can argue MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., whatever. They're the same to me, but yeah, that's just my opinion. Attack all levels of the field because they are very beat up at all levels of the field. Minus linebacker, but they're kind of so to begin with. Keys for Bills defense. Now this is very key. Anytime we play the Dolphins, I say this, especially with Tua back now. Make the Dolphins offense uncomfortable. Make the Miami Dolphins play a different brand of football than they want to and that they're used to playing. What I mean by that, guys, is this. Tua, Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins, they're a NASCAR-style offense. They want to beat you by being a fast, breakneck, NASCAR-style offense that takes deep shots down the field and beat you with explosives down the field. Good for us, though. The Bills' defense, ever since Sean McDermott took over, and especially this year, they are built on preventing big plays. There is rarely a coverage bust in that defense. The Bills will give you light boxes and invite you to run the ball. Fine. The Bills will let you work in space and miss some tackles and run after catch. Fine. But what they won't do is let you beat them over the top with big explosives deep downfield. And that's what the Dolphins' recipe is exactly. They want to beat you. They want to be a NASCAR-style offense, and they want to play at a breakneck pace. And if you force them to slow down, grind it out, commit to running the ball, which they're barely ever comfortable with at an overly high rate, then you will win this game. Get them out of their comfort zone, if you will. Make them play a different brand of football. So just to recap, Dolphins, Miami offense, Mike McDaniel, Tua, they're Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Jonnu Smith. They have speed for days, even Divine Nature out of the backfield, give or take. Just to recap, they want to beat you at a breakneck pace, explosive style NASCAR offense. Bills are not built to give that up. And they don't want to be this, but force them to play a different brand of football. Force them to grind it out. Force them to commit to the run. Force them to say, we need to run the ball. And that's the biggest key to victory, in my opinion. Beat this weak offensive line with speed and burst. Specifically, those two words are key. Speed and burst. Because for the most part, this Miami offensive line is built on power. There's not a lot of high-level athletes on this offensive line. There's not a lot of athleticism in this offensive line. There's not a lot of speed and burst and twitch on this offensive line. Left tackle, Teron Armstead, is built on power, but any speed and athleticism that he did have is totally gone now. 34 years old. He's always beat up and injured. Okay, fine. Left guard, Robert Jones. I've always viewed him as a reserve offensive lineman, but without Isaiah Wynn appearing at all this season, still on IR and out, obviously, because of that. Built on power, no athleticism there. Center, Aaron Brewer. He's got a lot of athleticism, so he's the exception. But last week and the week before, it seems like he has snap issues, and it's going over to his head, some high snaps, a couple low snaps here and there. Right guard Liam Eichenberg, he's kind of garbage to begin with, just to put it bluntly, brutally honest here. I'm always going to be brutally honest. It's just how I am. He's built on power, but he's not very good to begin with. And then right tackle Austin Jackson is the one saving grace. But once again, he's built on power. So you need to beat this guy with speed, these guys with speed and burst. And Greg Rousseau, he's built on power and athleticism. I think two guys that are built on speed and burst on our defense line are going to be key. AJ Epineza, I love his speed and burst. He's an awesome athlete. Von Miller, maybe not awesome athlete anymore, but he's in there third down, third and long, fourth and long in some situations. He is made for playing on downs that require speed and burst. You don't need to put Von Miller in there on obvious rundowns, and the Bills recognize that too, coming off of suspension. Coming off of suspension for Von Miller. Speed and burst, AJ Epineza and Von Miller, because of that, have to be really very, very good this game. And I said this last game, maybe throw Javon Zolomon for a few chunk of snaps, maybe not a big chunk, but a few snaps here and there. Like give all the KC, like relegate KC2L to only special teams, only snaps as a high-level four-phase special teamer, and give Javon Zolomon a crack at it. I doubt that would happen, but predictably. But yeah, this offensive line is built on power for the most part. There's a couple exceptions, but for the vast majority, for the most part, it's built on power. So speed and burst, I think. AJ Epineza and Von Miller, that's their best attributes. So speed, length, and burst. In the case of AJ Epineza, and extent Von Miller, they're going to have to be really, really good off the edge in this game, in my opinion. And then give Tua different looks on offense in his return game from the concussion. I've said it before, I know people say it's inappropriate to speculate and you're not in Tua's shoes. How dare you say that he should retire or not? It's inappropriate to even talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. I think he should have retired. And that's not me being a Bills homer. It's just like, look at the big picture, Tua. Like you would be set for generations, but I'm done saying that talking point. Give Tua different looks on offense. It sounds like Terrell Bernard will be fine. And it sounds like they've been giving different looks in offense the past couple weeks. I've seen them take out Jordan Williams, an obvious passing down, and buzz down a guy like Cam Lewis and Jamarcus Ingram. I'm really glad that Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich and the defensive staff and Bills team as a whole, mind you, have realized that, hey, this guy can't be in on passing downs, Dorian Williams. This guy can't be in on passing downs. We need to put a pseudo-hybrid linebacker in there like Taron Johnson or Cam Lewis. Or Jamarcus Ingram, if you will, to kind of buzz down there and take him off. But I think a sneaky play you could give to a 3 linebacker looks. I know that's like unheard of for the Bills. Maybe you have weak side linebacker Jordan Williams, middle linebacker Terrell Bernard, and then a third true linebacker Buffalo Joe. I think Joe Andreessen could see his first action. But if you give Tua different looks on offense, he kind of won't know what's coming at him, because he just returned. He looked pretty crappy against the Cardinals, like he was not good at all. That's expected, but no excuses. It was your choice to come back, so it's just what it is. So, yeah, maybe if you want to still give him light boxes, that's fine, because they don't have any bruises at running back. Raheem Mostert, whatever, he's injured all the time. Old, 34 years old anyway. He's very old anyway. So, give him 3 linebacker looks. Give him dime package looks. Get creative with your looks on defense. The Bills are like never creative with their looks on defense. They refuse to leave nickel, like just refuse it to do it. But maybe dial up the blitz, not a lot more, but a bit more than you're used to, in my opinion. So those are my 3 keys for Bills offense, 3 keys for Bills defense. My player of the game predictions, who do I think will help the Bills to victory the most? On offense, I'm riding the hot wave. 125 yards 2 weeks ago. Who was it that we played? I don't remember, but bottom line, 2 weeks ago, 125 yards for Keon Coleman. 1 week ago against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, mind you, in Lumen Field, we won 31-10, all that fun stuff. Keon Coleman had 70 yards, 70 yards and a touchdown. And this week, I think he continues it. I'm looking for 50 to 60 yards and a touchdown or two. So I think Keon Coleman will be huge. I think Jalen Ramsey is wildly overrated. I don't think people like talk about him as much as they used to, but like even in Jacksonville, Jacksonville, he was good. It was warranted. But even in the Rams for those 2 years when he was in the Rams for the Super Bowl time, I was like, he'd be getting burned by a lot of receivers out there. And like, Stephon Diggs had 3 touchdowns on him when they played the Dolphins. Stephon Diggs torn ACL, whatever. But when he was in the Bills, he was against the Dolphins. I think Keon Coleman and Jalen Ramsey would be a very high-level, fun matchup, and we'll see if the rookie can handle Jalen Ramsey. But I think he continues his breakout and wildly hot streak. On defense, I'm going to go with Christian Benford. Christian Benford's ball skills have really improved early in the season. I've said this before. Christian Benford better be an all-pro after this season. Think about this, guys. Christian Benford has only given up 142 yards and a touchdown combined through 7 games this season. 142 yards combined. That is absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to do some quick math on my calculator here, but I didn't plan this, but might as well. 142 divided by 8 games. Sorry, not 7. Divided by 8. He's only giving up, so 17.75. Let's just round it up. He's only giving up around 18 yards per game. That is absolutely nuts. That is absurd. And I love Rasul Douglas too, but he's had a few more penalties than I would like this year and a few more coverage busts than I would like this year. But he's like Christian Benford is as physical as they come. Maybe he might not make first team All Pro, but like I'll be damned if he doesn't make second team All Pro. Like he's a lead. I think he could get a pick in multiple pass deflections or whatever or what have you. On this team. 5 game predictions. As I always like to look at underdog fantasy player props. I don't actually bet on them. I could. I just don't for whatever reason. Give me Josh Allen over 275.5 total yards. I think I've said this before. I would really like to see Josh Allen's rushing production bounce back and come back to form because for the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's had like consistently high rushing attempts. He's had like 8 to 9, maybe pushing 10 or 11 rushing attempts. They're just not like translating to pure rushing production. I would like to see that translate to like 50 or 60 rushing yards, give or take somewhere around there. So I think this is the boom game. Give me Josh Allen over 275.5 rushing yards or total yards. Give me Khalil Shakir over 4.5 receptions. I don't know how much pure production, this will translate to, but I think he could get like 3 receptions in the middle field and 2 or 3 screens to work run after catch. And like his burst and speed and downfield awareness is underrated as well. He's just tough as hell, man. Like, I love everything about Khalil Shakir. Like, he's not the most sexiest receiver, right? In terms of, like, most physical at the catch point. Not the fastest burner, even though speed is very underrated, if you ask me. So, Khalil Shakir over 4.5 receptions. That's a really easy one for me. And then, give me Tua Tagovailoa under 249.5 passing yards. I could not believe the prop was this high. Like, I think he tops out at, like, 205, 210, maybe 220. Because Tua has not had success at all against the Bills defense. Speaking of that, give me Devon Achane over 4.5 receptions. Like I said, the Bills' key to victory for them on defense is force the Dolphins kind of straying away from that NASCAR explosive downfield passing attack and grind it out with Achane and Mostert and maybe a few snaps of Jalen right here and there. Probably not, though. I think key to victory for the Dolphins where you really have to get going with Devon Achane out of the backfield because like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle historically have had like no success against the Bills on the Dolphins, even when Tyreek Hill was on the Chiefs. Playoffs, different story, but regular season at least. I think like 6 or 7 receptions at minimum. They'll have to get Devon Achane going. So this is pretty easy. Unfortunately, they're going to give up some receptions to Devon Achane out of the backfield, and it'll probably make them miss a few more times than I'd like because the Bills are really bad at tackling. They've improved a bit this year, but historically, especially this, maybe a bit better this year, but historically, they've been really bad at tackling, and it's frustrating. It's their only part is frustrating on defense. Devon Achane over 4.5 receptions. This is a necessity, making the Bills defense miss out of the backfield. And then I like to do a fifth, more generalized prediction. Nothing to do with underdog, just in my head, a more generalized thing. Bills usually a defensive one because underdog fantasy props are usually heavily offensive focused, obviously. So Bills defense gets 2 interceptions on Tua. I think one of them is definitely Christian Benford because you heat up the blitz maybe a few more times than you usually do. So one of them is Christian Benford. And I think a sneaky play, the second one could be, I'm trying to put my finger on it right now. I'm going to say not Dorian Williams because he's going to be out on obvious passing downs, obviously, for like another DB that can buzz down as a hybrid pseudo linebacker. I'm going to say Terrell Bernard as it sounds like he's good to go. So I think my 2 interceptions would be Christian Benford and Terrell Bernard. This is not an actual specific prediction, but if I were to like guess just for fun, Christian Benford I think would definitely get one. And I'm going to throw the second one out there going to Terrell Bernard just for fun. Bills, my score prediction is Bills win the game 34-13. Yes, they win by 3 possessions and 21 points. We can sit here and say the 3 keys for this is this. 3 keys for Bills defense is blah, 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 and all that. The fact of the matter, guys, is Josh Allen is 12-2 against the Dolphins. He is a Charles Clay drop. And Isaiah McKenzie failing to get out of bounds away from being 14-0 against the Dolphins. So that's just like what it is. I cannot believe the Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver yesterday said Josh Allen leaves the ball out there like a hangs the ball out there like a loaf of bread. Are you serious? He has 1 interception this year. He should have none because it was totally on Coop. Amari Cooper flipped last week. He hangs the ball out there like a loaf of bread. Give me a break. Dude, do you realize your team is 12-2? Do you realize your team is 2-12 historically and probably should be 0-14 against the Bills? I know you weren't there for all of it, barely any of it, but like look up your history, dude. What a dumb thing to say. Like historically, like Jalen Ramsey trashed Josh Allen his rookie year, and what did he do? He took the top off of that defense in Jacksonville, totally blew him up and embarrassed him. So I don't know why people are giving Josh Allen fluid. Josh Allen doesn't need any more motivation, but like that's bulletin board material for sure. He hangs the ball there like a loaf of bread. Give me a break, man. He has 1 interception this year, and your team's 2-12 should be 0-14 against them. Look up your history and don't say that. Like, how stupid. I took a screenshot, so you know I will be sharing that again when the Dolphins lose on Sunday. So I'm going to say Bills win 34-13. I don't care. It's never close, ever. Tua plays garbage against us all the time. Predicting 5 inactive players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, technically it's 6, so 5 is the requirement, but predicting 5 inactive players versus the Dolphins for the Bills. Unfortunately, this morning, I know, like, this isn't a big deal, but he's a big deal in my heart, guys. Like, you don't understand how much I love this man. Reggie Gilliam will be inactive because due to a hip injury. Sean McDermott was on his weekly WGR 550 radio appearance with Sil Capaccio. By the way, he does great work. Go follow him on Twitter and stuff. I've met him a couple times. He's a pretty awesome dude. Anyway, his weekly appearance, he said, yeah, Reggie Gilliam won't play. And Terrell Bernard should be good to go. And we'll see on Curtis Samuel. Unfortunately, Sledge is inactive. That's his nickname. His Twitter name is Reg the Sledge, so I call him Sledge. I've named my family league fantasy team after it. You don't understand how much I love that man. Anyway, that's besides the point. Sledge will be inactive, so there's got to be someone to replace that special teams acumen and ability because the 3 biggest special teamers by far on this team, I guess 4 if you want to count Quentin Morris, but Matt Collins, Sledge, and then Cam Lewis. Without Sledge, you'll have to replace that. I think because of that, Joe Andreessen as a 5th linebacker, and he just has to be active game day jersey to replace that because he's coming along in special teams very, very nicely. And then I think wide receiver Curtis Samuel should be inactive. 1, because he's done nothing this year, and 2, if it's too close to call, just say sit him down and like elevate KJ Hamler because I would like to see what KJ Hamler could do in that screen role, that gadgety type role. Maybe give him some scheme touches, 2 or 3 or 4 this game, and have him work with some jet sweeps here and there. Center Will Clapp. They love Cedric Van Granger, which I do as well. I think defensive tackle Zion Logue should be inactive again because like Elianku was elevated from the practice squad last week against the Seahawks, and in terms of he's not going to give you much rushing to the passer, but in terms of his run defense, very, very well in that department, which we severely were lacking and needed, if you will. So I know Austin Johnson the ball kind of fell into his hands. I know Austin Johnson got the pick last week as the third defensive tackle versus the Seahawks and Geno and whatever. The ball was tipped, fell into his arms, whatever. But I'm not so sure that Elianku isn't our third best defensive tackle behind Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. I think he should get the game day jersey elevation from the practice squad or whatever you want to call it, and add Zion Logue be a healthy scratch and a true inactive. And then linebacker Eddie Ulufosio is just not a thing. Like it's basically a redshirt year for him. Just never going to be active. He's like the sixth linebacker because obviously you have the top four with Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, Balin Spector, Nicholas Morrow, and then Joe Andreessen, who's coming on very nicely in special teams. And just especially when Matt Milano comes back, Eddie Ulufosio will be the seventh linebacker if he's even still on the team by then. And then safety Mike Edwards. He's clearly frustrated with his role. Per Jeremy Fowler, who also does great work, per Jeremy Fowler of ESPN earlier this week, it was reported that teams were calling on Mike Edwards and Bills have made him available for trade. And Mike Edwards is very frustrated with his role in Buffalo. And I understand why he's very frustrated with his role. But I warned you guys, like, don't be surprised if Mike Edwards doesn't do anything this year when we signed him back in March, because he's always been a third safety in his career. When on the Bucs, third safety in certain packages. When on the Chiefs, third safety in certain packages. The only reason why he started for them in those two Super Bowls was because Brian Cook was hurt both times, or in the second one, I think it was last year, because he's a rookie. And Brian Cook's in his second year now, so that would make him rookie last year. So that's the only reason why. If you get a fifth-round pick for Mike Edwards, great, and then you can flip that for another like depth defensive tackle. I'm thinking like Arik Armstead from the Jaguars, Shelby Harris from the Browns, or Delvin Tomlinson from the Browns, or Zadarius Smith as an edge rusher from the Browns. I want defensive line help. And you don't want to risk Mike Edwards get injured anyway. He doesn't do anything anyway. He's clearly the fifth safety, fourth true safety, and fifth if you want to include Cam Lewis. And then Kareem Jackson's the practice squad, which he's probably better than him too, or at least at the same level. And then Micah Hyde, I've given up on that. If he retires, great. If he doesn't and comes back, great. I just don't care about that anymore. So, yeah, I think they do flip Mike Edwards by the trade deadline and then use that pick, like a fifth or sixth round pick for a defensive tackle. People say, oh, you're losing depth with Mike Edwards. What depth? He's only been active for one game this season, and he's only been special teams and came out for a few snaps here and there in garbage time against the Jaguars. What depth are you talking about? There's no depth. Kareem Jackson's practice squad can serve the same exact role. I don't know what you guys are talking about depth. There ain't no depth with Mike Edwards. So anyways, guys, it does sound like linebacker Terrell Bernard will be back, which is awesome. The tight end wasn't a big issue anyway. Like Johnny Smith had one quote-unquote blow-up game 2 weeks ago. The Snoop Huntley at QB, and then he was okay last week with Tua back. So yeah, that's the preview show. I have the Bills beating the Dolphins in Orchard Park, New York this time, 34-13 at Highmark Stadium. To get this out of the way, you can follow me personally on Twitter at AWagner13. You can follow the show on Twitter at Ron Slice. You can, of course, watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or, of course, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And lastly, please help me get to 50 subscribers. I'm on the road to the Big 5-0. Please help me get there. No deadline. You guys are loyal fans, so I know you can do it. Please help me get to the Big 5-0. Anyways, guys, I will be back on, Monday, Tuesday. I will be back on Monday, November 4th for the recap show to give you my initial reactions and observations, and I'm assuming it will be a huge win and all that. One last time of the Bills beating the Dolphins in Orchard Park, Highmark Stadium, all that fun stuff. 34-13. I will see you guys on Monday. Thank you for supporting as always. Appreciate it. Bye.